Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody, from wherever in the world that you are joining us for the last Tech Talks DC session of the summer. We have a number of exciting Tech Talk DCs planned throughout the fall as well as the winter. And hopefully, in the winter, we'll be back in person and enjoying these sessions in person, but also transmitting live as well. One of the things that I often talk about during my work at Durham College is, and this is something that our dean, Debbie McKee-Demchik, brought up during the academic kickoff. And this was the idea that we do not quite know where things are headed with regards to the pandemic. But the important thing is that we kept on moving. We kept on moving with new projects, kept on taking on areas of research that we were typically not familiar with, but learned over a period of time. And the engine driving that movement, for all intents and purposes, is our students. Today, I'm joined by, let me do the count again, four very, very innovative students who come from different disciplines, bring different experiences to Durham College, and who've been a part of a variety of projects over the summer. I plan to bring them back in the fall and winter as they continue to work in applied research, both in AI and in cybersecurity. What's applied research? Well, to put it simply, and this is not a theoretical or a textbook definition, but to put it very simply, it's quite easily the mechanism via which the college uses student talent and faculty talent to work with industry to produce prototypes. In our case, in AI, DevOps, and in cybersecurity. There are a number of funding mechanisms that support this, but I won't get into the details of that. Instead, like they always say, the engine is the heart of movement. Today, let's go into this engine and meet some of these enterprising students and learn a little bit about their experiences. The first student that I'm going to ask to introduce herself is someone that I've got to know first from an administrative standpoint, but quickly learned that she's got a very critical eye for IT. Sania, welcome to Tech Talks DC. Tell us a little bit about what you're studying at Durham College and what have you been doing at the AI Hub over the summer. Sania?
Thank you, Ali. So I'm a part of the Computer System Technology program. It's a 3-year program, and I'm heading into my final year. The reason I chose this program is that it kind of gave me a flavor of the different branches in IT. So it gave me a little bit of programming, a little bit of networking, a little bit of security, and it just kind of like helped me decide on which field I kind of wanted to focus on. Over the summer, I got a chance to work at the hub, which gave me real work experience. I was able to work on a few different projects and work with different clients, and just kind of like learn new stuff.
Absolutely. And Sania, one of the things that I'll say is, and I told you this while hiring you, is that the only thing that's constant is change. And you've adapted very well to changing environments from one day speaking to a client like ground level insight to the very next day pivoting to Connects Health, sometimes not even knowing what the data architecture is, but being able to talk about something even without knowing about it and then going back and doing research is a skill in and of itself. And we'll dive deep into that during our conversation. Next is someone that I've come to not only build a strong working relationship with, but somebody who I've come to admire in terms of her tenacity, her focus, and more importantly, her drive. A very accomplished individual who's come back to school for a better future, to support, to be an emblem for her children as well. Her name is Mervat, and Mervat has been a fascinating addition. One fun fact about her, she joined the AI Hub a little bit later into the summer tenure, but has been an absolutely phenomenal asset, helping us in our work with Brantford Pediatrics and building out a state of the art bot for medical services. Marwat, welcome to Tech Talks DC. Tell us a little bit about what you're studying at Durham College and why.
Thank you, Ali. It is my pleasure to be with you today. I am, as you said, I am an application developer. I have been application developer at AI Hub for 3 months now. Last April, I earned a three-year advanced diploma in computer programming analysis from Durham College. Before I came here to Canada, I was working in IT field between teaching computer programming languages and developing web, desktop, and mobile applications. Regardless regardless all my experience in IT field, I have a bachelor degree in chemical engineering.
Absolutely. And Marwat, the teaching experience that you brought to the table, the engineering background as well, has really been reflected in one of the most important assets that people often forget. And I'll re-emphasize this for a lot of students that are joining or looking to join the AI Hub or the Center for Cyber. Yes, you can have all of the technical skills. You can have the ability to write in different languages, both front end and back end. But there is a writing skill when it comes to technical documentation,
Yeah.
the ability to do knowledge transfer in a systematic fashion. And I will not be ashamed to state this, but in seeing what Marwat had done over the summer, I actually learned a lot myself in terms of documentation. And I will emphasize this for all of our students. Knowing how to do knowledge transfer is at the very heart of a smooth client experience. So, Marwat, we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go forward. And once again, I really do appreciate your support and your diligence. Next is an individual who's got a very big fan club, especially on Twitter. Perhaps one of the only students that I've seen that, and it's very beautiful to see and very kind to see, who's got a fan club of her mom and many other family supporters on Twitter. When she joined the AI Hub and it was announced that she joined the AI Hub, not only did we get a series of retweets, we also got acknowledgments and thanks from all over the world. Durham College truly is a multicultural melting pot. And my next student is a very good example of that. Very similar to Sania, it comes with a lot of experience from an IT standpoint, but also from an AI standpoint. And I'm going to have her introduce herself by telling us what program she's studying in and why. Komal, the floor is all yours.
Thank you. I am from a computer science background, but I have done data analytics for business intelligence from Durham College. And my next program is artificial intelligence. And this summer I worked along Sania on Connex Health and ground level insights, and also individually I am working in Durham recruiting, and this has been a really good experience. And I'm actually naturally inclined towards analytics. That's why I chose data analytics.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think Komal, though she's not saying it, I think she's extremely happy that I actually remembered her name this time around. Usually, for the first 2 weeks of the summer semester, I kept calling her Sonal. I do not know where that came from, but eventually I got over that quirk and started calling her by the right name. So, Komal, one thing that I've learned from you a great deal as a student is you should not be afraid of failure. And that doesn't mean anything that you failed any courses. What I mean by that is Komal's had the ability to say yes and take on something even if she doesn't necessarily know the background. So, for example, here at the AI Hub, and also this has bled into the cybersecurity realm as well, thanks to one of our PIs, Abhilash Maracharla, we've developed a lot in Django. This was not a framework that Komal, and I had to remember her name this time, was familiar with, but she picked it up. She learned over a period of time. And I would say right now has sufficient knowledge to at least guide somebody in their Django framework deployments. That's one of the environments that the AI Hub gives you. Speaking about giving you a safe space to learn, a safe space to make mistakes, my next individual has been working with the Center for Cyber. And he's been in a position where he wants to learn more about cybersecurity, and has also been able to look at new frameworks, look at new architectures. Very well spoken, very kind, very humble. One of the things that I will emphasize with this student, as well as with everybody that's on this Tech Talks DC session, is that I always look not necessarily for skill, I look for the right attitude. I can teach someone the technical skills that they need, but I need the right attitude at the table. Humble, team working, a team player, and more importantly, a willingness to learn, communicate, and share. The next individual embodies all of this. Yash, please take a moment to introduce yourself and tell us what are you studying at Durham College.
Hello everyone. So my name is Yash, and currently enrolled in Durham College as a computer programming and analysis course. So in that course, my main background is web development and application development, but it also has some other courses such as database development. So in it, we have to learn new skills about how to interact with first and customers, they are in initial phase of their business. So yeah, we have to talk to different individuals about their system requirements and gather data about it and create a new database for them. Right. Right now in AI Hub, I'm working as a application support, and my main focus is on cybersecurity. Uh, Previously, before this job position, I have never done anything in cybersecurity. So right now, I'm doing all this learning, and learning.
Yep.
So yeah, so far the whole experience is really good, and I'm looking forward to fall.
Absolutely. And I think, this is another important element, that keyword, which is experience, right? As students, the reality of the matter is that you are focusing on studies, you are focusing on achieving the grades that you want to achieve. But at the same time, for an abundance of reasons, students also look for work related experience. Now, let's be open about this. And to our audience, I really need you to understand how this structure really works. Of course, students have bills to pay, students have other obligations to meet as well. Everybody's at a different stage of their lives. Some have families, some don't, but have other obligations, so on and so forth. So obviously students are driven to make some income while they're studying, and nothing better than making income that you're studying at and being able to translate that into some income but also experience. That's where the applied research avenues at the AI Hub and the Center for Cybersecurity come to fruition. So I want to go into a little bit of analysis right now as to why did some of these individuals decide to get into, or at least decide to apply into working at either the AI Hub or the Center for Cyber. Marwat, I'm going to start with you because the reality is that you've got a lot of experience behind you. And if I dare say this, the marketplace would scoop you up pretty quickly given the front end and back end knowledge that you already have. Why did you specifically choose for an experience on campus? Marwa?
To be honest, all my experience is non-Canadian experience. I was looking for a Canadian experience, and another thing I was interested in to get experience in the AI, because I decide to return to school next week and study AI and get AI graduate certificate from Durham College because, as you know, the AI become an essential component in all applications. And I, as a developer, I don't want to be behind.
Yeah. And I think this is a very important element that you brought up, is that AI has become such a fundamental
Yeah.
element of almost all aspects of development. To those students who are watching, whether you're watching live or you're going to watch the recording, I'll go a step further and say that this is not just because AI is, yes, it's being used as a buzzword, but there's an element of this that has to do with data.
Mhm.
Because mobile applications, web applications, any interactive interface that you create has data within it. Data, as we like to say, is the new currency or is the new oil. And there's a lot that you can do with this data: predictive algorithms or statistical methods like clustering, random forest. All of these different mechanisms help draw insights from data. And the reality of the matter is that if you are going to be in the world of DevOps, knowing how your data is going to be architected, even if you don't want to get into the algorithmic side of AI, but if you just understand how data is architected and how it's prepared or ML engineer can work with, that's a very impressive skill to have. And more importantly, that's what allows your resume to stand out when you go out into the marketplace. So take it from somebody with a lot of experience, dare I say, even a little bit of more experience than myself. Sure, maybe not as much Canadian experience, but this is coming from somebody who knows a variety of languages, probably even a few languages that I don't know myself. So Mervat, thank you for that very clear articulation of why you decided to work at the AI Hub and why you decided to put your resume and your candidacy forward. I'll take the same question and bring it to Sania. Sania, you less on the AI and the data side, more on the architecture side, more on the systems information side. Your journey was a little bit interesting. You had a couple of offers at the table within DC, all wonderful departments, but more on the administrative side. Instead, when I reached out to you and said, "Hey, I'm interested in your candidacy," you immediately put the AI Hub or the Center for Cyber, whichever one I hired you under, as a priority. What necessarily drove you for that experience?
Honestly speaking, one of the main reasons was getting experience related to what I'm studying. Getting technical IT experience was something I preferred more because obviously once I graduate and go into the workforce, that experience would count more. So that's one of the reasons why I picked the AI Hub over the other positions.
Absolutely. And I think, again, for those who are watching or will be watching the recording, it is very competitive to get into the AI Hub and the Center for Cyber. We have, in full transparency, struggled a little bit with being remote. We've always preferred to be in person in our clusters at SW103. But we have a pretty strong list of candidates, of clients that we work with, etc. But it's these kind of things that allow a student to stand out. So when Sania mentioned that, hey, I do have other offers, but I'm interested in this one specifically, it didn't come off to me as someone who was being, for lack of a better word, egotistic. It came to me as someone who knew what she wanted and wanted to settle for nothing less. One of the things that I will emphasize is that when you do apply to work at the AI Hub or the Center for Cyber, it's not just about, hey, I have these technical skills, hire me. It's also about understanding that question of what are you looking to get out of this experience? Because the reality of the matter is, and this goes to anyone that's interested in applying, we are not just looking for those technical skills. Because if you've got such outstanding technical skills, go and get hired in the marketplace, become a freelance developer on Fiverr for that matter. We're looking for who wants to actually go through the pains of growing. Growing is painful. And Sania can attest to this, is that she's been in situations where suddenly you've got to explain something to the client which you've not touched before. For example, about I think a month ago, we put her in a situation where, can you explain the difference between Lightsail and EC2 architecture on AWS? Go figure it out. Oh, let's throw Lambda in there as well. And the ability to take on those challenges. The one thing that I can tell you, and take this to heart, is you got to get comfortable with being a little uncomfortable in these learning environments because there are going to be things you do not know. So, a lesson from Marwat, number one, is that if you want to adopt Canadian experience, but you want to look at the marriage between web architecture, mobile architecture, and data, this is the place to be. Number two, if you're looking to grow and go through some of those pains in a safe space, Sania has some words of wisdom for you. Let's go next to Komal, and then we'll go to Yash. Komal, your application went through the standard procedure. You have some very good experience in the past as well. You were very motivated to join the AI Hub and kept on top of all of the paperwork, so on and so forth. What actually got you aware about the AI Hub? Was it something on social media that attracted your attention? Was it just you saw the job posting and said, hey, this sounds attractive, let me apply? What drove you into applying to this position?
Actually, initially, my professor, Amit Maraj, had encouraged me to join the AI Hub. During my time at data analytics course, I was very pre-planned that I need to get into my course next year for AI. I even plan to go to a PhD, but I don't know when will that be possible. But for the AI thing, I was really very mentally prepared. So when I saw different uh, opportunities in the Durham recruiting hired portal, and also from my students that there is the AI hub is very good, and I heard a lot about that. That encouraged me to apply, and as soon as I applied, you responded. That was really good.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there are again some very important words here. And this goes for Marwat, Sania, and Yash as well. The reality of the matter is that when you work at the AI Hub or the Center for Cyber, for that matter, you're not in a position where you're working towards a PhD. You're in a position where you're taking certain tactical knowledge that you have, certain theoretical knowledge that you have, and you're applying it to creating and developing prototypes. What this does do is that this sets you up well to determine what are some areas of research, if you choose to, that you can get into. One of the students who you've probably seen on campus quite a bit, Roshan Deep. He's now headed into his master's at another institution and plans to go into his PhD as well because he's understood certain gaps that may exist in the algorithm and the algorithms that we use, certain gaps that may exist in the language stacks that we have. So to Komal's point is working at the AI Hub may not necessarily put you in that position where, oh yeah, you're in a graduate environment where you're suddenly doing theoretical research, but it preps you for that. Very important point that Komal has made. If you are looking to work with us, this isn't about publishing papers or delivering conference presentations. This is actually about writing code, writing architecture, and handing it over and seeing it in action. A lot of companies R&D relies on what we do on campus. Thank you, Komal, for that. And thank you also, Komal, for acknowledging the fact that when you emailed, I responded right away because that's what I like to do. The mystery remains, is it me responding or is it a bot? And I like to leave my audience in mystery. Let's go next to Yash because Yash mentioned that, yes, we hired him through the AI Hub, but then I moved him into the cybersecurity realm. Yash, a little bit of a different question just because I like to always throw in a fun ingredient once in a while. Yash, did you ever expect that you would be applying into a position where you'd be doing some cybersecurity related work? What did you think about when you were applying to this position? Yash?
Honestly, I did not think about working under cybersecurity, but my initial behavior was I want to get a job that is, related to my actual field. So I think cybersecurity, and especially if you look in last summer in 2020, all the COVID thing happened and we were under lockdown. And for 4 straight months, I didn't did sorry I didn't do anything. So this year I wanted to be more productive. So that's why from March and April I was looking for a job, and hopefully and I find the AI Hub job, and then you moved me to cybersecurity. But I did not think that I will be able to keep up with the cybersecurity, but then you helped me a lot, and yeah, so I'm starting to learn new stuff, and yes.
Absolutely. And the reality of the matter is that sometimes even when we, given the nature of how COVID has impacted us, and thank you for bringing that up, Yash. Often students such as Marwat, Sania, Komal, Yash might think of it as, oh, this is the only thing that Ali does, or my team does, right? We'll hire students and get them to do work. There are 20 other things that we're doing. It has been challenging for us in terms of where do we allocate resources, what do we do, and things have been changing by the minute. As students who are looking to apply into the AI Hub or the Center for Cyber, if you think you're going to come into an environment where you're going to have very rigid structure, where you're going to have a timetable that you walk in at 8 a.m., you walk out at 5 p.m., and this is what you're going to be working on, that's not what's going to happen. Things are moving, things are in flux constantly. You have a certain number of hours, you might pivot from one thing to the other, and you've got to have the right attitude at the table. Secondly, that I will emphasize, and in working with Yash a little bit more, I will also emphasize this is that communication is absolutely fundamental to a successful experience with us at the AI Hub or the Center for Cyber. It's very difficult for me every day to check in. It's very difficult for me every day to see what everyone is doing. But the one thing that I can expect is at least midweek or at the end of the week, a quick update. One of the things that makes Durham College stand out in applied research is that we're not afraid to color outside of the lines. We're not afraid to innovate. So, one of the things that we do a lot is we have WhatsApp groups, for example. Besides Slack, WhatsApp, a quick text, a quick message somewhere, and you can get the information out there. Not everything needs to be structured in a formal email. Understanding that we've created an environment that mimics the working place in Canada is what has helped a lot of our students. I'll also add another point, and we do have a very strong international cohort of folks who have recently moved to Canada. The ability to have frank, friendly conversations helps a lot of our students with learning some of the cultural tropes as well, learning some of the techniques, the trends that we have in the Canadian context, and bringing that into their workplace life. Komal mentioned a company we work with called Durham Recruiting, and their CEO, Dustin Kello, has a very famous line where he says, Companies often hire for skill and they fire for fit. We at the AI Hub and the Center for Cyber really focus on training both in skill as well as fit. So thank you everybody for your initial opening comments on why you joined these respective divisions. I want to take the conversation a little bit now into some of the challenges that you may have faced. And I don't need you to be very, very specific, but just share an honest, open opinion about what are some challenges that you may have faced. And we'll continue the same order. We'll start with Marwat, we'll go to Sania, Komal, and Yash. Marwat, you've been focused on the project with Brantford Pediatrics. I've been working a great deal on the bot that they're creating. What would you say are some of the challenges that you've had to experience while doing this work? Marwat?
Okay. The main challenge I usually face when I work with a client is a difference in technical backgrounds. For example, clients request some feature or an enhancement in their product. From their perspective, these features might look simple, and they think that it could be done by clicking on one click, one button. They don't know that we as a developer sometimes need to write hundreds of lines and to do a lot of update and change to meet this request. Usually in this case, I used to say, well, we can do that, but that will cost you this and this. Then let them decide.
Honestly, what Marwat just said in the last 30 seconds, if I could record that and put that on my Instagram, I would, and send that to every client that I know of, because that's exactly what it is. And let's work with that, Marwat. Marwat, brilliant response. To our audience, let's for those of you who are also watching this live as well as a recording, let's break this down a little bit, and the rest of the students can comment on this as well. Is we do work with a variety of companies and do R&D for them. We develop prototypes for them. Now, we also make sure that they have a technical person on hand, but very often in our meetings, probably 10% of our conversation is with the technical individual. The rest is with the subject matter expert. Because in AI development and security development as well, you need a lot of context. You need a lot of information so that you can start to code that into the algorithms and whatever else have you. The biggest concern or the biggest challenge, well and truly, is getting the client to understand that that simple process to just submit a form, what looks simple, has a back-end architecture to it, has a front-end architecture to it. Oh, and guess what? There's some cloud architecture to that as well. And then adding to this is explaining to them that, all right, now that the application is live, there's a cost to maintaining this. Maybe $100 a month on AWS, maybe $500, really depends on how much you consume. And it is a challenge that we relish. It's a challenge that we go through all the time. But I'll tell you one of my strategies. I've not gone into this challenge alone. I put people like Marwat into the fire first, and I allow them to explain it to the client before I try to go, well, Marwat, no, maybe we can try this and maybe we can try that. And by that time, it's the end of the meeting, and then I can walk away and think about it later. But the reality of the matter is that the ability to communicate, to do knowledge translation, and explaining to a client how one thing can work, and for their next release cycles, they still need to add more resources to get things to happen, compounded by the fact that you are in COVID times where spending has kind of held back a little. It's very difficult. It's a challenge that we consistently navigate, and it's a challenge that we navigate well, but of course we do meet some stumbling blocks. So Marwa, thank you for that very important point. Sania, let's come to you. I don't necessarily, there's one thing that you can look at challenge with working with different clients, etc. But I think for you also, one of the challenges has been there's just a lot to take in. So can I ask you, looking at that challenge of so much to take in, how have you prioritized what to start with, and how have you prioritized your time? Sania?
Um, so yes, it was initially when I did start. It was when I was dealing with the clients and they were telling me about their requirements. A lot of things were new to me. So, like for example, deployment on AWS or Lightsail or Lambda. those things were new to me. But what I did have to do is, like you said, I had to do a lot of research. So research was the key in me adapting and being able to pick up. So after I used to meet with the client, I used to take notes and I used to research on what they're talking about, what they need. And that kind of helped me understand better and learn quicker. But I would definitely say one thing that was key in me adapting was doing research.
Absolutely. And I think, this is another part where all the students need to recognize this. And I'm being brutally honest when I say this, and I'm sure some folks may disagree with me. But as students, our priority is to make sure that, for you folks as students, our priority is to make sure that you're focused on your classes. So we don't necessarily, at least in the fall and winter, give you 35 hours a week. You have a maximum of 20 to 24 hours. And the reality is that much time to do research um, doesn't leave you with a lot of time to do dev. I will be brutally honest in saying this, that each one of these students here has put in a lot of in-kind time as well to train themselves on different skill sets, to ask questions, to reach out to us, and have gone above and beyond. And that's just the reality of this. I will tell you that if I asked Sania where she is today and early September, believe it or not, 4 months to Christmas, and where she was in June of the same year, she'll tell you there's a big difference. And she'll also tell you is that she's also received opportunities in industry and is already managing a lot of work for different clients as well. So the reality of it is that it's the return on your investment, the return on your imagination. Put in a little bit of time, do some research. The beauty is that you have access to the faculty at any point of time. You have access to me, myself, Sabah Siddiqui, Abhilash Marcharla, Professor Sam Plati, Professor Danny Anya. We're not 9 to 5ers. WhatsApp us, text us. We will get back to you. So these are the ways in which I see Sania has overcome these challenges very, very well. And Sania, along with Marwat, fantastic work, and thank you for bringing this up. Komal, let's come to you. I mean, one of the challenges you can always say clearly is that Ali forgets what he said 5 seconds ago, and then makes me do 3 projects in within a 10-minute span, and tells me about 3 projects in 10 minutes, and somehow I have to figure it out. That's one challenge which nobody's able to overcome. So you just have to live with it. But Komal, from your perspective, what was one of the challenges that you faced, and how have you tried to overcome it?
Mostly it's, as you asked, Sana, it was prioritizing what tasks to do first with respect to the client expectations. And once you start talking with the client and understanding what the client needs, what happens is that you get to know that they wanted something totally different, or they wanted something slightly different, or something like that, or you don't want that, but sometimes just it is the scope of the project increases, even
Yeah,
you did not anticipate that. So when the scope increases, uh, the architecture increases, the scope of communicating the thing to the client is totally different at that point of time, that okay, we need more time for that to process that information. And
correct.
that has been like that's a lot of things, I know, I understand, but still it's there have been challenges with respect to that. When the scope increases, how to communicate that okay, the scope has been increased. Now how do we explain that to the client? And okay, there are changes to some of the products, but how do we explain that okay, we have these changes in place, and then it's not something that really
Yeah,
needs focus, or you need total attention. You don't need to panic. It's okay, it's fine.
yeah,
So some of the things that really need to understand and learn, and that comes from a lot of patience and tolerance, and and a lot of other
absolutely.
things.
Absolutely, very, very well said. And I'll add a line more to this is the project management piece in the work that we do doesn't fall on one particular individual. Now, Komal has brought up a very interesting point, and that is I will always take the philosophy that client is king, queen, and everything above me, right? And if the client wants us to jump, we'll simply ask how high, right? But there are certain lines that you have to draw. I will just push the team as far as I think I want to push them. But there are certain lines that you have to draw. Now, in a project that we structure, getting the actual client to come and do work with us, there's a sales process there. which we have to deal with. And you reach out to 100 clients, maybe 2 will accept. It's not easy, number one. Number two is the way in which these projects are structured. You've got myself, of course, but then you have a principal investigator. Remember, I mentioned Abhilash, Sabha, Professor Clary, whoever else have you. And along with them, you have a team of students that work with them. The reality of the matter is that while the PI is responsible for ensuring we deliver in scope, we tend to very often see a lot of quick results in the first 4 to 5 weeks, very quick movements, etc. And especially in AI, what tends to happen is a lot of our clients are coming into AI for the first time. So in 5 to 6 weeks, when they've seen, oh, this is what's possible. Ooh, you can also do that. Suddenly, from telling you, hey, I want a washroom with, a nice shower and a tub, suddenly they're like, hey, can you throw in a jacuzzi there? Come on, it's just a bunch of pipes. It happens, right? And we're in that difficult position where I want to keep the customer happy, but at the same time, we have to draw some limitations. And that's a challenge. It's a fun challenge in many cases. It's one that we enjoy, it's one that we expect. But it's one that, thanks to me, we often end up, not just building a backyard, throwing in a swimming pool as well. And the pressure does fall on the students, but this group of students have delivered beyond belief. We are getting better in ensuring that scope creep doesn't come into our work, but there's room for flexibility, and we do follow a very agile process. Komal, thank you for bringing up that challenge again. Three very fascinating challenges that have been brought up, and again, a testament to the unique perspective that the three of you have. Yash, the pressure's on you now to come up with one unique challenge that you faced during your work. Spotlight's all yours, buddy.
Okay, so yeah, I worked on different projects throughout these 4 months. So during that time, working with the client is always challenging for me because most of the client expects you to be somewhat skillful in what they are asking for, right? So yeah, first, as Sania said, skills are really important. So you have to do research all the time. And for me, it was the same. But sometimes communications can play, an important role. So as Marwat said, we come from different backgrounds of technology. So they will so they will think that you can do some stuff in less than the time that you are thinking. So communication with the client is the key, I guess, because you have to tell them that no, we have to allocate some time to this type of project so that we can work it on comfortably.
Absolutely. And I think, again, unique perspective that you brought out, Yash, is yes, you've heard about the communication side, you've heard about, technical limitations, etc. There's an element of communicating with your team as well.
Yeah.
And, no team is, or no individual is an island. So when you're working on a team, you've got 2 or 3 students that are on it. Now, besides having weekly team meetings, weekly client update meetings, you've got to have meetings internally as well. And the ability to jumpstart those conversations, especially when you're working remotely. How do you initiate those conversations? Where do you meet? How do you share? How do you share resources entirely remotely? In some cases, with students who have not even entered the country, or students who may have traveled to see family and now not unable to come back for whatever restrictions. The reality of the matter is that life at the AI Hub and the Center for Cyber has not been immune to what's happened with the pandemic. And we've been thrown into hyper remote activity just as everybody else has. And students, especially this summer, have had to deal with this. This has been, a lot of the students that dealt with this in 2020 and into the fall were still existing students. Marwat, Komal, Yash, Sania were in their first ever experience. So suddenly now to be in a hyper remote world has made for its challenges. But I will say this, is that what I mentioned earlier was the WhatsApp groups, the Slack channels, the consistent emails, etc., have helped us maintain some sort of a culture. What I will say this to anybody that's looking to apply into the AI Hub or the Center for Cyber, evaluate and reevaluate your ability to work in a team. And if you feel like a team environment is not what suits you and you'd rather be an independent developer, that's fine. but you need to know how to work in a team environment in person as well as remotely in order to successfully deliver and over deliver on many of these projects. We are in business as long as we bring in more clients. We have work as long as we bring in more clients for research and development. So the better we deliver, the more expertise that goes out there. We've got about 15 minutes left, and I want to come to two questions very quickly and then bring it to an end because I know my students have other things to do and are all getting ready for their long weekend because it's drinking weekend. I joke. They're just looking to have some fun time before the fall semester begins. So I don't want to keep them too long. So probably another 10 minutes and you'll be off the hot seats. You're doing a very, very good job, everybody. Marwat, let's go to you. And I want to ask you a question on the support and the resources. One of the things that you've done very well is that you've worked very well with Sabah Siddiqui, and you've had a good relationship and a part. And with me, it's just been like, hey, Ali, blah blah blah. Okay, done, and then you move on. But you've had a very strong relationship with Sabah. But one of the things that you've done well is you've worked with the industry partner very, very well. And you've used those resources. Can you comment a little bit about how you've used the resources of from the industry partner and how you've worked with Sabah and how that's helped you in your work?
And the first resources is the AI Hub employees who are always ready to help. I would like to thank them all for their cooperation and support, you, Ali, and Sabah. Besides that, self-learning resources are available online. I use LinkedIn e-learning. They are providing educational video series from beginners to advanced. I'm currently a project I'm working on is developed in Django framework. It is a high-level Python web framework. Before I have been assigned to this project, I knew nothing about this language. I spent about 2 weeks using LinkedIn e-learning to study these languages, and I studied the projects is built or is developed by other developer at iHub, and eventually I could implement the new requirement in efficient manner.
Absolutely. And I think here's a key thing to remember is that students graduate, they get full-time positions. Now we're left with a phase 2 or a phase 3 to start working on. So you're taking on code from someone else. One of the most important resources that you can get is the PI. A PI like Sabah Siddiqui, who knows the project in and out and then can guide you with what you need to do. This is why I mentioned at the very start that Marwat has created a little bit of a pattern and a new signature when it comes to documentation. Because Marwat's going into fall and the winter. She may stay with us until even August 2022. But when she moves on, and who knows, she might even become faculty at DC, you never know. But if she moves on to a role, she has to hand over to somebody else. And the way in which you can lead another student into success is by leaving good documentation there, thorough documentation, so that they can review that. And Marwat, I appreciate the efforts that you put in and more importantly, everything that you shared thus far. Sania, let's come to you in terms of resources. Now, you've all again taken a little bit of a different turn where not only have you relied on PIs, not only have you done a couple of courses here and there, you've actually gone and deployed certain architectures. You've gone and created certain sandboxes and you've tried to test things. Can you tell us a little bit about how you've utilized some of the resources to support your work?
So one of the biggest support for me was Roshan Deep. He helped me because he was working on the project previously. Once I entered into the project, he really helped guided me on the steps that I need to take. And he, like, anytime I would need help, he would connect with me, meet with me, and kind of like guide me through the steps I needed. And if I had any questions, I could ask him along the way. So Roshan Deep was definitely a big support in me learning how to deploy applications. And even with the Django framework, because it was a new framework for me, he met with me a few times at the start to just kind of like get me used to it, and then would give me resources that I could use that he's used in the past that would help me understand it more.
Absolutely. And I think, just like I was saying, you've got the PIs, you've got the industry partners, your fellow students. Roshan Deep, for example, comes with about 2 years of experience at the AI Hub. And although he's not on this session, I'll tell you, and you can reach out to him on LinkedIn. He started off as a very quiet, in the corner developer. You'd barely hear it, didn't even know he was there at the hub, would make a couple of changes, nervously push it. Today, he's at that position where you'll hear him, and if he sees that you've made a mistake, he'll come and help you. That's the gradual transition, the gradual progression that a lot of students have seen at the AI Hub and the Center for Cyber. Be under no illusion. It's not an environment where it's strictly structured that you punch in your card at this time and you leave at another time. It's flexible, it's malleable. What you get out of it is what you put into it. So, Sania, thank you for bringing up that important point. And Roshan Deep, if you're watching, a shout out to you as always. Komal, let's come to you, and then we'll go to Yash, and then we'll wrap up. Komal, for you, what has been the importance of the resources that you've had? How have you used them? How have you engaged with your PIs? Can you shed some light on this?
Actually, the main two resources are you and Sabah, without whose help, nothing would have been possible. Like, of course, God helps, but you have helped the from every corner. You have supported us from giving, from time, from flexibility, from saying, "Okay, Komal, you don't have to jump into it. It's okay. Breathe. Take it slow. Take
Yeah.
it step by step." Saying it at the right time, at the right moment, and then even making you feel comfortable in being uncomfortable. So these are the few things. Those are like really crucial with actually open the gates to opening your actually your own mind. The head gets opened and fresh air gets in, and okay, we have to through we look towards things in new perspectives, just because of you and Sabah. Because you said, okay, you look at this and then you give us the space to do that in our own time frame and our own efforts, whatever, and we are flexible with that. That's so true. And the next help is from Roshan Deep as well, like Sania. He has helped. Initially I needed to know about the process of how the things would work in Django. Apart from what I had step, this is the process for a particular thing, and then if you go through that, it's gonna help you out. So that process, and the whole holistic sandbox that you get in your career, that's so important.
Absolutely. And I'll go a step further there, and I'll say this is that we at the AI Hub and the Center for Cyber have also been very cognizant of the mental health of a lot of our students. We're not, at least in my case, not a mental health expert, but one of the things that we've been looking at is making sure that our students are not spending 35 hours just in front of a screen coding. Trying our best, to get them into other sessions. So one of the things that I've done a lot with my students is I've asked them, come and join this session, get away from the work that you're doing, or read this article, or let's have a team call and chat about something fun. Or for example, one topic that has been a huge item of discussion has been these cookies that Marwat apparently bakes and sends us pictures of, but I have not received yet. So the point of saying this is that we try and create an environment where you can breathe, an environment where you can make some mistakes and you can learn from them. And that's where PIs like Sabah, Abhilash, and the faculty all come into play, because even if they made the mistakes, we know how to fix them. And that's super important. I'll add one more thing before I go to Yash is our industry partners deserve a very, very special shout out. Whether it's Dr. Asim at Brantford Pediatrics, whether it's Tushar Singh, who's also the chair of our AI Hub at Minute School, whether it's Asif Khan from Ground Level Insights, Medha Saraya from Connects Health, they understand the value that they're getting. One of the things that you'll notice with the AI Hub and Center for Cyber is that we're very strong in our marketing and our outreach, because it gives exposure not just to our students, but to these companies as well. For example, we recently built a bot for Canatrace. Canatrace just got acquired by Vector Labs. I don't know the exact monetary transaction, but it was a pretty large acquisition. That tells you the kind of impact that we've been having and taking care of our students, making sure that they feel comfortable with us, they can have open conversations. is how we like to work at the AI Hub for Center for Cyber. And I want to thank Komal for taking us up on that. She's had other conversations with us about life in Canada. We've given her some advice, and I think it's worked for her. And she's where she was when she began in late May to where she is now. There's a huge difference. And I'm super excited to have Komal on as I work through the contracts for the fall and the winter. Yash, how did you utilize some of the resources, especially given that you were thrust into a cybersecurity field that you knew very little about? What resources did you look to? How did you work with it?
So on an initial phase, I started to look online, like read some articles, view some YouTube videos, and all that. But after that, I kind of get a grasp on it, and I started to actually work on the cybersecurity. For example, I installed my VMs and then installed some virtual boxes. So yeah, still, I think I remember I read some article on OVAS. It's a really good website that you suggested me, and then a couple of weeks after, I was working on Juice Box, and then there was a session on Cyber Exchange from Helen Oakley, and she was describing all the useful information about that Juice Box. So yeah, that really helped me, and that guided me how to proceed with that stuff. So yeah, so as you said, different sessions on the cyber exchange really helped me a lot in learning new things in cyber exchange.
Absolutely, no, and well said, Yash. I think these other sessions that we were able to give you access to and utilizing those sessions, you know, a very well-known cybersecurity individual once said, it's the power of showing up, being there, listening, learning, and that helps you go a long way. And Yash has been a very good and strong proponent of that. So good work, Yash, over the summer. And I'm looking forward to the fall and winter with you. And I do promise you, your contracts are in the works. And by when we begin early next week, you should have everything ready to rock and roll through the fall and winter semesters. One last question, which I'm going to ask everybody to breeze through in about 5 to 10 seconds. Marwat, we'll start with you now. How difficult is it going to be to manage work and school at the same time? Marwat?
For me, the main challenge is not managing the school and work at the same time. The challenge is managing them when I am a mother of 3 kids. I should be super organized person to handle and deal the requirements for being a good student, a committed employee, and a mother ready 24/7 for unexpected issues.
Absolutely. And this is why, at the start I mentioned it, is that you are an exemplary individual. We are well aware of, your recent move into the Canadian context, but more importantly, being a mother of 3 kids and getting them to learn about the ways of life here, managing those expectations. I think yourself, we have another very well-known research assistant and associate at the Hub, Bemisola. She too, a mother of 3, I believe, and twins as well. A young mother, much like yourself, and it is truly fascinating to see how you've gone through things. And I do want to give a shout out to our president, our deans, who have made for these environments where you have the resources and support. So Mervat, thank you for everything that you've done, and we're definitely awestruck by how much you've accomplished. Sania, recently married as well. You've got a lot on your plate too. How are you going to manage school and work together?
I think for me, the best way to manage my work is to start early. Having a schedule, starting your day off early helps me organize things and prioritizing my tasks. So balancing work and balancing classes would be the key, and just having good time management skills, I think that really helps.
Sania, be very careful when you say starting early, because I'll start booking meetings with you at 4:30 a.m. I'm just letting you know because I am awake at that time. So just an FYI, be very careful. But yes, time management is extremely important, and no, I won't book a meeting with you at 4:30 a.m. because I have other meetings at that time. Anyways, Sania, again, thank you for everything that you've done, and I'm looking forward to the fall and winter with you as well. I'm particularly pleased with how the nervousness with which you started and the confidence that has now come up is a true reflection of your own attitude and your ability. So excellent work, Sania. Komal, over to you. Lots of expectations from back home. You need to score 105 out of 100 on every assignment. How are you going to manage work and studies?
I think I have to give thanks to Durham College for that because they have scheduled a timetable from 2 o'clock to 9 o'clock. So
Yeah.
that's gonna be really easy to digest. You can put the main thing is to putting a focused mindset at a particular time. So when, for example, from 2 p.m. to 9 p.m. you're focused at studying, and then from morning time you're focused on delivering stuff.
Yeah.
So you have one flow of information at two different times that will make us very flexible towards working as well as studying as well. So I think Durham College has made that schedule in that way that has made us very easy for us.
Absolutely. And if the financial aid people are speaking, Komal's basically saying you can do more and throw some scholarships her way as well. She performs extremely well, and all of these individuals have done very well. So, for all the students that are listening as well, there are a lot of scholarships that you can apply to as well. Some AI specific ones that have come out too. So, if you have any questions around that, please reach out to financial aid, or if you need some assistance with your scheduling, etc., there are resources to help you. Last but not the least, a gentleman, Mr. Yash. How are you going to manage this? Especially because we do have one deployment that is coming up with neurovision therapy. Mr. Yash, how are you going to plan this?
Of course. So, when you are working while you are studying, after a while you get exhausted from constant working. So you have to be effective. You have to put something in your mind that says that you have to be effective enough to complete tasks from both school and work. And if you ever get exhausted, then you should remember to take care of yourself first and talk to your peers and your professors to let some load off. But yeah, so
Yeah,
you have to be taking care of your health first.
absolutely. And I think this is a very good closing point to end with is if you're not going to tell us that you're not able to manage something, we're not going to know. I mean, it'll eventually reflect in the work not being done, but you do need to stay in touch and consistently communicate. And Yash has been an exemplary student in doing just that. We have come to the end of our time. Now, to the four students that are on, I'm going to obviously bid adieu to our audience. I'm going to ask you to stay online, don't disconnect. So we'll have some quick chats in the green room as well. But just when I reflect on all of this, both from a humorous standpoint, but also an emotional standpoint, when you joined, it was the early days, and you all got to see the first conference we ran called Enable AI. And at the end of Enable AI, I had told you, well, you were all impressed by other students and alumni. You're like, whoa, that's great, so on and so forth. If you remember the first session that I had done, and you're like, wow, that's inspiring. And I did tell you one day it'll be you folks who will be on that show. And that's happened. I don't think you would have imagined that seeing my different shows, the Power Hours, the other Tech Talks, you would have imagined that you would have been guests on it. And here you are. So if there's ever a testament to how far you've come, ever a testament to what you can add now to your resume and your experience, this is it. And I expect this to be the first of many such sessions. In fact, I do expect and I make this prediction, going into a year from now, you might even host your own sessions and your own podcast because you have a lot to offer. To everybody that's watching, I often get asked, why do I teach? And I often say that to teach is to learn, because just as much as I'm a teacher, I am a student of my students. I learn a lot from them. And I hope from this session, you've learned what I've learned from all of these four fascinating individuals. Tech Talks DC will be back in the fall. We're just finalizing the schedules, and we will be advertising them on our social media channels at the AI Hub and the DC Center for Cyber. If you have any topics, if you have any ideas, please feel free to tweet them at me or email them to me at my Durham College account, ali.hirji@durhamcollege.ca, and I'll be happy to take a look at them and see if we can put something together. I want to thank the team at CyberX for always giving us their platform in kind to host these fantastic sessions. We didn't invite a lot of people to this because, again, it was the first time that some of these students have been on this, but it seems to have gone very well. So the session will be available on demand, and we'll definitely be promoting that. Stay safe, stay healthy wherever you are in the world, especially here in Ontario as the COVID cases have risen dramatically. I hope all of you are taking good care and enjoy your long weekend. And we look forward to seeing all of you at the start of the semester on September the 7th. Take care, everybody. Bye for now.